the war chief. His people have the secret of time travel.
Are you suggesting he's bringing in his own people? The Time Lords?
He came to us because he wanted power. Perhaps there are others of his people who feel the same.
Can you prove this? If so, you must tell the Warlord, immediately.
Unfortunately, I have no proof. You must help me find proof. I insist. This is a matter of security.
All right. What do you want me to do?
Hello and welcome to Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast with me, Matthew, and as always, I am joined with...
Yes, it's Scott here, and yeah, we're on the middle two episodes of the War Games. Is this middle two
We're
episodes?
halfway
Yes,
through.
it is.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're halfway through. We're just halfway through this story, the War Games, which we have been covering so far for 3 weeks now. So you can go back and listen to those episodes if you haven't already, to be caught up with the story as we continue working our way through. There isn't too much preamble before we jump straight into episode 5, so I just want to say right off the bat, subscribe, like the video, do all that stuff. Also, I have a book coming out next week. You should buy that book. Can You Taste the Color Orange? Everywhere you can get books, it will be. Buy my book. It's very weird and sci-fi and weird. So please buy it. Please.
Yes,
buy my book.
Yeah, this
Can
is
You
the
Taste
last
the Color
time.
Orange?
This is the last time we can talk about the book before it comes out.
Before
'cause
it's
next
out,
week,
yeah.
Yeah, next week it will be
Comes
out,
out next
which is
Thursday.
Insane.
Yeah. Yeah, the 28th. God damn. Very soon I'm going to be holding a physical copy of my book.
I can't wait to
That-
hear it. It's going to be great.
Yeah, that's insane. But yeah, go please buy that, and I would love to hear what people think about it. That would be very cool.
Yes.
Anyway, with that said, let us jump straight in to
Yes.
episode 5 of the War Games.
Had I not pointed them out, you wouldn't have even known they were here.
Yes, that has been puzzling me. Just how did you recognize them?
You dare cross-question me? The security of this entire venture is being threatened by your incompetence. You will find this intruder.
The whole base is being searched. It is only a matter of time. If the mental processing were fully effective...
There would be no need for security. When I came to your people, I was promised efficiency and cooperation. Without the knowledge I have, this complete venture would be impossible.
We have given you every facility. If you have complaints, I suggest you take them to the Warlord.
I intend to do so.
Our episode begins, as every great episode does, with the conclusion to the gripping cliffhanger we had last week. If you remember what the cliffhanger was, the episode last week, for some reason, continued on a little bit further, past where the natural cliffhanger would be off the Doctor and Zoe getting chased, to Zoe getting caught and almost shot. That was the cliffhanger. And we see here that the guy's about to pull the trigger, because he's like, you're a spy, you're a spy. When science guy with glasses comes in to be like, hey, don't shoot, that would be bad. You shouldn't shoot, naughty. But the guy shoots anyway, but thankfully the gun has no bullets in it, which I think is kind of a dark conclusion to that cliffhanger. Like, yeah, Zoe would 100% be dead right now, by the way.
I mean, not if there's no bullets in the gun, you know.
No, but like if there was bullets in the gun, like
Okay,
there was no way out of this situation. Like there was no, she got lucky. There were no bullets in that gun. Otherwise, she'd be toast. Like,
I mean, it really just within a minute it does two things to counteract against the cliffhanger, doesn't it? There's two ways out of the cliffhanger immediately. There's no tension.
Yeah. It's. And, you know, Zoe then ends up getting captured, and we go off to probably my least favorite part of this story, which is
God,
the
yes.
Jamie stuff, the Jamie stuff with the Resistance members. God damn, it's just boring. It's just so boring.
They spend way too long in this Civil War barn.
The barn.
It doesn't even, it doesn't even look like an American barn. It's terrible.
Yeah, it is. And I like how this scene opens, because I think it's this whole episode, and I mean just 60s Doctor Who in general, is very theatrical, and this scene opens with like 5 seconds of silence as everyone stares at each other so the camera can pan out. I think that is such funny blocking, because it's a cool enough shot, but it's like, why are you're all just looking at each other, nobody's talking right now.
It also tells you it's episode 2, doesn't it, when it's doing, or episode 5, sorry, when it's doing that.
Possibly, I don't remember. No. Yeah, it does. Yeah. So the opening credits are there. Episode 5.
Yeah, we're just sitting around waiting for the subtitles,
waiting for the credits. Yeah, because they can all see them as well.
Yeah.
And this leads over to them bickering with the guy that saved them about how he thinks that there's tunnels everywhere, and that's how the guys have been getting about, and they're like, no, there's not tunnels, you need to listen to us. It's a giant invisible spaceship that people can come in and out of, and for whatever reason this guy from the Civil War doesn't believe that's possible. I don't know why that's so difficult for him to wrap his head around, that there would be a giant invisible spaceship for people and not just tunnels. But it leads to basically a dumb fight. A really dumb fight, with some phenomenal choreography where this guy and another guy from the Patriots, what were they called? The Yankees, the American
Yankees,
soldiers,
probably,
yeah.
It's important to note that this week they only had 3 days of rehearsals, because from this week on till the end of the series, the recording day was Thursday instead of Friday, so that does help explain why maybe this episode in particular doesn't have the best choreography, but it's not great as a whole throughout the entire show. So
yeah, it's pretty. The choreography, I think, is pretty standard for everything we've seen in classic.
Yeah.
So I wasn't that surprised by it, but it is very funny when these two get into a fight over the existence or lack thereof of tunnels. They get into a big old fisty fight, and it's just, I don't think that the choreography doesn't help. It also doesn't help that it goes on for way too long.
Yeah,
we were sitting just listening to these guys go ooh,
Yeah, this is the point of the episode where I had to turn my TV down slightly, because it does sound suggestive. It lasts for like a solid minute. It's not fun to sit through.
Yeah, until they get separated, and I like it because a guy comes in and fires a gun. He's like, "Stop fighting, you idiots!" And then Jamie catches the guy with the scar, the big bad guy that they have, trying to use his Skype machine to contact. And I don't know, what was this guy's plan? What was he? Was he just going to Skype and be like, "Yo, I need help"?
That's the whole plan. He spends the entire episode and a half, because he doesn't actually ring for help until halfway through episode 6. That's his entire plan here. He's just trying to call for help.
It takes him a very long time.
And
Jamie catches him.
As these two people are fighting, nobody watches the prisoner, the security. Every time there's
the fight was so cool. Did you see how many awesome moves they were doing? You didn't want to miss it.
But every time there's supposed to be a prisoner or some sort of security in this story, they're the most incompetent people ever. The security chief, especially, letting people go every second.
Yeah, this plot does happen because of incompetence.
Yes.
But, I think that's the driving factor in a lot of Doctor Who plots could probably be summarized as somebody was bad at their job. Or aliens invaded. We then go to Zoe, who's in a very cool room. the one thing that I don't like about this room is they've got this really cool like swirly wallpaper and things like that, but we spend the entire time looking at it side on.
Yeah.
Like we never get, like, at least in this episode, we don't get a cool full front shot of it. And it's sad because I would like that'd be such a cool way to open up the scene where Zoe's supposed to be like getting hypnotized or whatnot, with us looking directly into the hypnosis wheel rather than looking to the side of it. But still, it's some fun imagery.
Yeah,
I like it.
The set designer for this episode is Roger Chevalier, and he wanted the door to open like an iris. The budget was not possible, so he went for like a guillotine kind of effect to suit the security chief's character. The authors wanted, the guy security chief uses a truth machine. It's just a really funny hat. So the authors wanted the truth machine to be a device that straps the victim in. The visual designer wanted it to be a £50 funny hat instead, which is about £1,000 today. And it is a really silly hat.
Yeah, it is. It is. It reminds me of what's it called? The fucking old Nintendo VR headset. The fucking, what is it called? The Virtual Boy. That looks like a Virtual Boy.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, Zoe gets led into this room by X from Speed Racer, and then Gary Oldman comes over and puts on the Virtual Boy, and is like, and he's going over this like hypnosis with her, and he's like, and I think it was kind of like, I enjoyed how the scene was written, where he's like, to which resistance group do you belong? And she's like, I don't belong to any resistance group. And then he's like, no, I belong to which resistance? Like, he like leads her sentence into it. So I thought that was it's just a very fun way of scripting this scene. That also goes on for way too long, and we start going through like a slideshow at one point of just different people.
I mean, there's a solid 2 minutes of just pure slideshow in this
just
episode.
Looking at people, yeah. Which is fun. I mean, that's a fun bit. I don't think Doctor Who that we've covered has ever like padded out by just being, look at this PowerPoint presentation.
Imagine the timeless children, but instead of actually watching the master explain shit, it's just a PowerPoint presentation of the Doctor's past.
Click. Honestly, right? If you stylized it a bit, probably would make it more better to watch. Like if you like turned it into like the master actually prepared a PowerPoint and was like, here we go, click, like you could turn it into a funny scene.
Yeah. Like
break the tone of the episode.
every slide is just like star transitions and wipe transitions. Like you just went overboard, and there's like the word
all
arts.
the text comes in with the like like spirals and sparkles. We got sound effects at certain bits. Yeah, it'd be great. We continue on to a pretty. It's a fun enough scene with the Doctor and the man with the deep voice, where the Doctor is like trying to like find out the information, but I don't know. Maybe it's the just the dry nature of what they're talking about, because they're just talking about like scientific instruments or whatnot. I was like, fuck me, this is like, come on, this is boring. But I do enjoy the Doctor's dorkiness.
Yeah, Roger went for a really psychedelic set here, inspired by what he saw in a nightclub. It's generated by projecting light onto the wall through a sealed capsule containing oil. The heat from the light causes the oil to move, generating like a lava light effect, which is, I like it. I dig it. It's going to look great in color, I think. The equipment was supplied to the show by technicians from a club called the Middle Earth. But they wanted too much money for this, so this is the only episode where the effect is in place. Like next episode, it's just circles on the wall, and it's plastic. So
sad. I wonder how noticeable that'll be in color then. If like this first one is this like lava lamp sort of thing, and then in the next time it's like very visibly plastic. Yeah. Because you'll be able to spot details like that more when the color gets added. So that'll be interesting. But the guy is a brainwashing or whatever the fuck to the soldier dude that was with the Doctor.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's going to remember everything, by the way, when I do this to him. So he does it And then he remembers everything and recognizes the Doctor, and we get a fun bit of fucking run around the circle with some more incredible blocking.
Yeah.
It was so goofy. He's like, he recognizes you. Come here. Like,
Oh yeah, you expect it to just go on forever, and they're just running around the circle.
honestly, they keep running, going around. Yeah, it's
like that's a pretty good idea for a YouTube poop, just them running around forever.
Yeah, they just keep going. But they eventually they knock him down into the chair. They knock him out or something, and he falls into the chair. And then the Doctor
the Doctor gives him a karate
lobotomizes
chop.
him. Yeah,
which is very inconsistent whether or not the karate chop to the back of the neck ever knocks
you have to
somebody
hit the
out.
right spot.
Yeah,
you have to hit the right spot. Because it's like a fraction of an inch between knockout and murder. You know, like you have to be precise with it. And sometimes you make a mistake and they die. You know.
Yeah, the Doctor breaks the fourth wall at the end of this scene as he comes back to the room. He's like, "Better leave him on simmer."
He's just talking to himself, you know. It's okay. He's not. He didn't look at the lens. He's okay. We then go back to Jamie, and we get a repeat of all the exposition we've already learned before about how this telephone device works and who the bad guy is and what it is exactly we think that they're trying to do. It's cool. Just in case you've missed the previous fucking 4 episodes of this story and have been completely blind to talking about it to people in your day-to-day life who are also watching this show. You're like, I don't want to hear anything. I'm going in episode 5 blind. Okay?
and then of course, you know, they didn't bother keeping an eye on the prisoner again, you know, especially after he just tried to escape 5 minutes ago.
And then he tries to escape again, and then you're like, you rascal, and they give him a big hug.
Classic Who is something else, really.
It's so strange. I mean, you know, they were doing the best with what they had, and also, like, you know, like TV itself is still like a relatively new thing. So I totally get. It's like growing pains, you know.
Yeah, because
it's like growing pains.
TV was only like. TV really only became popular in like the Coronation, which was like 1955. So this is like 15 years in, really, to TV being a big thing in the world, you know.
By the 1960s, 75% of British homes had a television.
That's insane.
So there's still 25% of people that don't watch TV in the 60s.
God, what the fuck do you do without TV, you know?
They probably still listen to the wireless. But we then go on to meet the War Master. No, not the War Master. Is that his name? What's his name?
Is the War Chief.
No, War Chief. Yeah, sorry. War Master is a totally different guy.
Or maybe it's the same Chief. Guy. That's something to think about.
Yeah, maybe. And the oh god, what's the name? The War Chief and something
the security
else.
chief. Yeah,
security chief. That's it. They've got dumb names.
Yeah, these names are really tough to remember because essentially we're kind of serving the same purpose almost. You know? Yeah. Every time we're running out of things to do, they just introduce a new chief. Essentially.
This is the water chief, and this guy's in charge of. This is the catering chief, and.
But yeah, these two argue for a bit, and this is kind of setting the tone for the entirety of these 2 parts we're covering today, because they argue throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of both guys kind of want to be in charge and don't like the other guy.
Yeah.
There's some cool shots though. Again, the cinematography in this story has been top notch. I don't know why, but they've really gone fucking above and beyond with some of the shots. This has got a really cool like wide shot of the oh god, we just said his name, not the war chief, but the security chief. The security chief in the far background with the war chief in the foreground.
No.
And
what's great about that shot is it starts off in a close-up.
Yeah, and it pans out.
It really works well. You know,
it's cool as fuck.
A little bit of dynamic flair in this, basically television play almost. You know, this whole thing is studio-based.
It is it does feel like a play as well. But they they bicker and argue about the resistance still being a nuisance and the security chief being straight up really bad at his job.
Yeah.
Which is like doubly confirmed in the very next scene when the doctor just comes in and saves Zoe.
Oh,
like
God,
straight
yeah.
away.
Like,
Like the security chief's so shit. He was just told about how shit he is, and then he was like, nah, I'm actually good, and then immediately we see that he's not.
Like, he doesn't lock the door, firstly, you know, it's like a prison cell almost. He doesn't lock the door.
He posts one guard with the weakest neck in mankind, who gets knocked out immediately.
You know, and it's also the dumbest guard of all time, because when the doctor comes in, he's kind of pointing the gun at him, but he doesn't shoot to stun.
The doctor's just like, fuck off. He's like, fuck off right now. Don't you point that gun at me. You fuck off. And the guy doesn't know how to handle that.
Well, yeah, the security chief and the war chief basically get called off because the security alarm for the other guy who's in the Civil War just went off, and they're off to explore what happened to him and all that. It really takes another full episode to get to that, but it's a lot.
And what's interesting as well is when they go to save Zoe, I guess it's just because they knocked out the guard. They're like, oh, it's okay, we'll be fine. Nobody's gonna come and like, there's not gonna be a shift change or anything like that, so we can just hang out in this room and, you know, mess around with their toys and figure out what's happening. And, you know, the doctor puts on the fucking VR headset and goes through his own slideshow, and God, it's a lot of photographs. And it's also more just kind of repetition of what we already got, because the doctor is explaining to us what was happening to Zoe, even though we figured out what was happening to Zoe, you know?
Yeah, and then, you know, the doctor goes through the Civil War photos, and then he goes through the 1914 to 1918
war. Yeah. It's an easily forgotten war. It's a war that not many people remember or talk about these days. It was a very small one. Didn't have much impact on wider society as a whole.
It is interesting. I do wonder why that was said instead of World War One.
I mean, it was definitely... because like World War II had already happened, so it was called World War One by this point. Like people knew it as World War One. So I don't know why you would decide. I've never heard anyone call it the 19 to 14 to 18 war either.
Maybe
like the Great War, or, you know, shit like that. The war to end all wars. Yeah, I've heard all those, but never. Oh yes, the war of 1914 to 18. That's that war.
Maybe it's because they constantly refer it to as the 1917 zone. And maybe maybe they want the doctor to say 1914 to 1918 rather than World War One, because I don't think World War One is said. There's no World War One zone. It's the 1917 zone.
Yeah.
And kids would get confused if they don't know World War One history. You know, when it happened.
Maybe.
That's my only thought.
Maybe. But I don't know. It still feels weird and clunky. I feel like what sort of kids growing up in 1960s Britain, which is like, you know, not that far removed from World War II, wouldn't be aware of what World War One was. You know, it's so recent in history still. You know, but yeah.
God, it would have been
just
recent.
strange.
That's weird. Time is weird. This episode is 55 years old. That's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a different world entirely.
Basically, the doctor's like, do you remember everything you've seen, Zoe? Because we can go to all the different zones and get everyone together and form one big army against these guys. And that's basically the next... That's basically what happens in episodes 7 and 8. So it's a long while until we can cover that.
Yeah, goddamn. But yeah, the doctor wants to form a rebellion. What a cool guy. So the story continues on as the war chief and the security chief bicker for a bit before telling just some dude that's sitting there to be like, get ready to send guards, get the guards ready to send to the place we want to send.
Also,
as we cut to the doctor.
This dude is way too tall to be bossed around by the war chief. Sorry, he's so easy to get those names mixed up.
No, they're very different names, and they're very memorable and separate.
But yeah, he is like an extra foot above this guy, and it's
giant,
like,
yeah.
you know, this slave dude could just beat you up at any point, you know.
But you know, maybe he's happy in his job. Maybe. He's just really passionate about his job. You don't know.
Where all of his supervisors are incompetent and can't do their job, I'm sure he's very happy.
It's just every job ever, isn't it?
You got a point. Can't argue it.
Yeah. The Doctor and Zoe and that, they come out of one of the keyhole doors, which is a set design I really like. I really like the look of the doors. And they hide off screen so that when the bad guys come out, nobody sees them because they're hiding behind the fourth wall.
They're hiding behind the cameraman.
They are, yeah. They're like, they'll never see us here because they know they're not allowed to look at him. Because if they look at him, they'll get in trouble. So it's okay.
Even for people in Classic who look at the camera all the fucking time.
They continue off, going to wherever they're going to go as we go back to the Civil War area and have even more fucking bickering and shouting and being like, but the tunnels and things like that until they decide to set up like a trap to catch one of the guys when they come out of the TARDIS machine. And these guys, they look like both X from Speed Racer and the Aquabats from the Aquabats as they get just completely some more amazing choreography, beat up by like 12 dudes or whatever, including Jamie.
It's not even like choreography, it's just very strange.
Just
Jamie gets knocked out, he gets back up, and he's like, "Oh, that's good then." But you know, this was something that was considered violent in 1969. Apparently, the BBC got complaints about this. So before, the BBC would usually be like, you know, it's really considered violence if it's humans against monsters and they're beating each other up. Is that violence if it's fantasy? Whereas in this case, it's humans beating up other humans. Maybe the violence is a bit too more extreme, but, you know, nowadays you look at this and it's like the tamest thing I've ever seen. Especially since the punches don't fucking hit.
comically tame, yeah. But, you know, you have to ease your way in with, like, TV's, like, still a relatively new thing. It would have been really... I think it would have been honestly pretty bold to be like, you know what, full gore violence and nudity right away. That's what we want. No restrictions. There, especially like the society at the time and just like the cultural zeitgeist of what people were like. I think it would have been a really bold creative decision, and I think it probably would have ruined TV. So, you know, we had to go through this like overly censored, like, oh, you must be polite and can't swear and talk in the BBC voice, so that we could now get to the age of debauchery that we now live and thrive in.
Yes, you know, this was the days of Mary Whitehouse, is that her name? Who was like this big Christian woman who was organized.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
She was very against violence.
Yeah, Mary
and
Whitehouse,
sex and,
British teacher.
What a woman.
She campaigned against social liberalism and the mainstream British media, both of which she accused of encouraging a more permissive society. I bet she was so lovely. I bet she was such a nice lady. She sounds so lovely.
You know, there is a valid, there is a validity to what she was doing. She didn't want the youth to be exposed to violence or sexuality. That's fair.
I think it's,
but
I don't think it's fair. I think it's dumb as fuck. I think if that's your position, you're straight up an idiot. Like, I don't want people to know about the world. I don't want people to be aware of what the world is actually like. I want people to live in a fantasy bubble, please.
But she was especially against like adult films that only adults would watch, like The Evil Dead. That film was heavily censored here for a while, partly because of her, I think. So
it's
nightmare.
Censorship in general, I think, is dumb as fuck.
Yes.
And, I think
Like,
I think that lady and I would probably disagree on a lot of aspects of
you know,
life.
censorship, especially in the UK, is still a thing. I was watching The Simpsons last night, and
Yeah.
you know, Channel 4 censors The Simpsons, and it's like, why even air it if you're going to cut out some of the best jokes, you know? And you know, recently we're trying to James Cameron is trying to get a 4K of The Abyss out. But in the UK, you can't get the 4K because he refuses to cut out a scene where I think it's a lab rat going through a tunnel or something. I can't remember exact specifics of the scene, but the UK censors wanted that scene cut out. James Cameron is like, no, so there's no 4K release in the UK, which is terrible.
That's
great
fucking
times.
dumb.
Yep.
Yeah. God damn it. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. You know, it's cool. I like not being able to consume art because people I've never met said that it will be bad for me. That's what I like. I like not being able to make my own choices.
It's pretty cool. I love it.
Yeah. But we get a scene where the war chief and the security chief have a very heated argument, and it's a pretty good scene. I think it's a well-acted scene and a well-written scene. I think it falls down at the security chief is so wrong in every single point that he is making, and the war chief is like so valid and like so like he's like a based king is the war chief there, where he's like you're shit at your job and you're making everything go wrong, and the security chief, no I'm not, there's only been 1,000 security breaches today, it's your fault actually.
The security chief is just so ridiculous as a character.
I love that this like you know, it's like a scene arguing about whether or not he's shit at his job, and then the very next scene is the security chief going to find one of his guards knocked out and being like, God damn it.
And you know, the scientist as well, we go to the scientist later and it's just this whole place needs a reevaluation. We do get some important details here. We find out a little bit more about the war chief. The war chief. He basically says, when I came to you people, I expected safety and organization. Without me, this complete venture would be impossible. The security chief basically says, if you have complaints, then take them to the warlord. And there's a big echo on the word warlord. And
then the war chief is like, yes, I will. That is, you are correct. That is what I'm going to do.
So originally they were going to wear those goofy looking glasses with the eye holes the entire time, the entire episode. But the guy who plays the war chief, the guy who plays the security chief, James Bree, he objected to this because he really thinks that, you know, actors deserve to have their faces seen. It's easier for them to act. Fair enough, because if you can't make eye contact with somebody, then it's really hard.
I mean, sure, but this is the whole Mandalorian Halo TV show argument, where it's like, you know, like the Mandalorian, they did the job of keeping the helmet on and still managing to create a character that everybody loves and can emote with. And then the Halo show, we're like, we need to take the helmet off so that people can, because it's so much easier to act and understand how Chief is feeling. So you know, it's a constant battle. And Dredd had this as well. In the 1990s, Judge Dredd had his helmet off constantly. And then when they remade Dredd, the studio wanted him to have his helmet off for at least one scene, and so they were like, "Okay, he'll have his helmet off for one scene." And they cast it at nighttime and covered in shadows, so you couldn't see his face still. And but the rest of that movie, he keeps his helmet on, and it makes it a better performance. You know, sometimes not being able to see the face, I think, is an interesting challenge for you as an actor. You know, like why not? Are you so shit at acting that you can't do it without people seeing your face? I thought you were a professional. But
you know, this is more stage acting, I would say. There's not really like subtle emotions that's being conveyed by these two actors. They are just giving a theatrical performance. So
no, I get it. It's a different style of acting for sure. We go back to Jamie. There was something I wanted to say about this war chief scenario. So the war chief, This is my new theory because I haven't finished the story. I have only seen up to episode 6. So my previous working theory was that all of these guys are Time Lords. Clearly that is not true, as the War Chief. So the War Chief is the Time Lord. He's perhaps a rogue Time Lord or an evil Time Lord or something like that who has run away to do something mischievous. And this people that he's with, I'm assuming, are just a generic alien species of some kind that are like, we love war, we strategize about war because we just love doing it. And I don't quite know why the War Chief would be doing this. And I feel like the War Master, or the Warlord, is probably a Time Lord as well, simply because his name kind of alludes to that with the use of Lord. And also, why would the War Chief answer to the Warlord if the War Chief is a Time Lord and the Warlord is not? Surely the War Chief would be above him in the hierarchy. I'm thinking that maybe it's like a Darth Vader sort of, or like a Palpatine Darth Vader sort of thing, where it's Master and Apprentice. But I'm not sure. I don't have 100% solids on who's doing what yet, but that's my working theory.
You aren't far off, I will say that, but we'll obviously discuss it more as more is revealed in this story, because we are still left in the dark about all this, which is good, because you keep a mystery for 5 episodes now, 6 episodes, and that really works, We're really intrigued by what's going on here.
To be fair, for the 5-6 episodes, they've kind of been spinning their wheels.
Yeah.
But, we get a scene with Jamie and that where they are discussing whether or not they're going to go inside the TARDIS to go and, confront these guys and whatnot. And Jamie is the most sexist man alive, where he's like, you can't come with us, to the lady that's with them. I don't remember her name.
Lady Jennifer.
Apparently... Yeah, Lady Jennifer. He's like, you can't come with us. You're a girl. No girls allowed. And I was really like, holy fuck, this scene is the most 1960s scene so far in this. But they kind of save it when the soldier guy comes in and he's like, you're a nurse. I have injured man. You need to go and look after my man. Please go and do that instead of coming with us, because you're needed there and you're not needed with us because we have more than enough weapons. And I think that is such a good justification for her not coming along, that I'm not sure if we needed Jamie's comment. Because, like, if you cut out Jamie being like, go away, girl, yuck, and you just go to her trying to get in and the soldier being like, yo, stop. And she immediately thinks, like, hey, you're stopping me because I'm a woman. And he's like, no, I'm stopping you because you're a nurse and I need your help. And then we still get that entire scene with that entire payoff with the good reasoning without having to do this fucking sexism for no reason from a separate character and just make him look bad.
But that is kind of the point of Jamie. He is from the past, and he does carry the attitudes of the past. But after like 3 years of traveling with the Doctor, being able to travel with someone like Zoe,
and
who is a scientist,
so gay with the Doctor all the time, like having so much gay sex with the Doctor, you'd think he'd have opened his mind a little bit.
It is a shame to see this in Jamie's almost last episode, but it is a product of the time, and it's whatever. We do work out a way. I am glad
it ends better than it starts. It ends way better than it starts, because it starts fucking rough. And the scene ends with them being like, hey, if the monocle man tries to move, just shoot him in the face and we'll be okay. And the scene ends in him just smirking. He does a lot of smirking in this episode because he doesn't really have much to do, so he just kind of stands there and smiles. He's like, this is nice.
He nods his head slightly as well. Don't forget that.
See, subtle performances. This guy was ahead of the time. He knew he we then cut to the security chief finding the science man with the weird glasses and the beautiful baritone voice. We find that he finds him getting his brain fried as the Doctor left him, and the science guy is like, I have to go to the war chief. He must find out about this betrayal and what's going on. And the security chief brings up what I thought was probably a very valid argument. it's a much better argument than what he was making before when he's like, I'm good at my job, actually, because no, he's not good at his job. But this argument of how can we trust the war chief? He's an alien from a different species. Why is he, like, he's on the run from his own people, or he's not with his own people? He came here alone, like, he's working for, like, he's, like, hired us to do this thing for him. Who knows what he's planning? Can we really trust him? Just sowing these seeds of doubt, I thought was, some nice villain work where these two villains are now kind of strategizing against each other, and we get to see them playing off one another. I think that's very cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. If you have a 10-part story, you might as well create a conflict with all these villain characters, because there is probably way too many villain characters. Like, we do not need that hostage in the barn, but, you know,
Yeah.
he's really there just to pad time, you know, so it's not too bad. But
He's
yeah,
there
also
to stand and smile.
Yeah, also one of the things is the war chief clearly knows more than he's letting on, and the security chief is aware of this. So yes, it does create a lot of doubt, and it's reasonable, and it really works well. And this scientist man will grow a beard in the next episode magically, because the next
We've all
episode.
been there. It happens to me. Like, I woke up and this was here. I was like, what the fuck?
The next episode is his last episode of his story, and he's just preparing for other roles here. So he magically grows a beard.
Interesting. See, this is the whole Superman, like, Henry Cavill mustache situation again. Like, it's easy. Like, he could have stayed clean shaven and for like whatever role he was going into, wear a fake beard. They had fake beards back then. You could easily wear a wig beard, but instead it's like Henry Cavill was like, he can't shave his mustache, so we have to CGI out his mustache. It's a lot easier to CGI in a mustache or wear a fake mustache. Just wear a fake mustache than it is to CGI out one. It's a completely backwards scenario.
Yeah, you know, like when Superman died in the comic book, he came back with a mullet, so there's no excuse of why there's no reason to complain about the fact he came back with a mustache. Just give
Superman
him a CGI mustache.
It would have been a vibe. It would have been a vibe. I would have dug it. I wish Superman had a mustache. Be like the Doctor. The Doctor has a mustache now, and it's great.
Because that mustache in Mission Impossible Fallout is magnificent. Oh my god.
Oh, it's a good mustache.
Ever.
Yeah, it's a good mustache. Yeah. But the war chief meets the very tall security guy, who's informing him about this, like, security breach that's happening, and he's like, I'll tell the security chief, and the war chief's like, oh ho ho ho, no you won't, I'll do it, I'll beat him at his own job, he's shit, don't tell him to do his job, he'll fuck it up, let me handle this. And they sends a bunch of guards off to ambush where Jamie is, as the Doctor, Zoe, and the soldier guy that's with them are just kind of fucking sitting down. They're just hiding. They're just all crunched over to be like, what are we gonna do? We're just gonna hide.
They're hiding behind the control panel, basically, and they are loudly whispering. They're doing stage whispering for sure.
Yeah, and they are hiding behind something that is translucent as well.
Yes,
like
not the best place to hide. A lot of terrible hiding spots in this story. Like, the Doctor is probably like the worst hide-and-seek player of all time, honestly.
I don't know, he doesn't get caught.
True.
You know, hide in plain sight, that's what they say. You know, it's right under their nose. Somewhere so obvious they'd never look. But Jamie and a bunch of soldiers come out of the TARDIS, and they get ambushed by the entire cast of the Aquabats, who are there firing guns at them, while the Doctor and Zoe just kind of look on, being like, "Oh my God, it's an ambush! Let's not warn them. Let's just watch. Let's not be like, go look out! Let's just sit there in silence and let them get shot." You know. And Jamie gets shot and dies, and that's the end of the Doctor Who forever.
Yeah, that's the end of the Doctor Who.
Jamie's the Doctor Who is over. Jamie is dead.
Just a quick little thing to talk about what happened between this episode and episode 6. The next episode aired on the 24th of May 1969, and on the 21st of May, Mr. John Pertwee officially signs his contract for Doctor Who, and season 7 was officially renewed for 21 episodes. It eventually became 25 episodes, which is about 19 episodes less than season 6. Season 6 had 44 episodes. insane. Like 44 episodes.
That
That's
is
most of a
insane.
year.
That's so. It's things like that. I always get in my head. I'm like, God, I want to watch Classic Who, and I just want to be like, oh, I'll have it on in the background while I'm doing something else. But there's so much of it, and there's so many other shows. It's such a time commitment, and so much of it is good, but even more of it is not.
You know, that's the
One day I'll
advantage
get
of
through it.
that's the advantage of this podcast. You know, eventually in like 50,
25 years,
60 years, we'll eventually catch up.
Yeah, I will watch through it at some point. I have it in my mind. It's a good background show for when I'm like gaming or something.
Yeah.
But I just haven't started doing it again properly. I'm still stuck in the first Doctor. Gotta get through fucking. What am I at? I'm on the chase. I'm going through the chase right now.
The chase.
Yeah.
The chase is a wild episode. You will see Frankenstein's monster body slam a Dalek.
Good stuff. Anyway, let us continue on this episode by moving straight into episode 6 of the War Games.
This one hasn't been processed before, has it?
It's possible.
It's a fact. Why was I not informed?
This is a matter of security. Security is my responsibility, as you often remind me.
Your first responsibility is to me.
No. My first responsibility is to the warlord and to my people.
You don't trust me. But if you question my loyalty, tell the warlord. But I warn you, be absolutely sure of your suspicions. Because if you accuse me without positive proof, I shall crush you.
So the episode 6, that's how I'm gonna. Yeah, okay. So the episode 6 opens with the conclusion to the cliffhanger from. I need to turn on my light. From
I was just about to say.
From the. I'm just gonna start again. Fuck this.
No, keep this in.
So episode 6 opens up with the conclusion to the cliffhanger from episode 5, where Jamie gets shot. And everybody just watches, and then a couple seconds pass, and Zoe's like, "Oh no, Jamie!" The Doctor's like, "There's nothing we can do. We've got to rescue him later. We've got to just escape right now." And they run away. And I kind of like the opening title of episode 6 comes up as the image of just people dragging away bodies. Yeah. It's so sinister.
What I do like about this cliffhanger resolution is, the first 5 minutes of this episode, you believe, as a kid, if you were watching this as a kid, obviously, you would probably believe that Jimmy is dead, you know? The characters are so worried about him. The Doctor literally does not know what to do. The Doctor's just we need to keep moving on. There's no time to go back. It's a terrible predicament that they got themselves in. That's something, you know,
it's like a cliffhanger that isn't immediately resolved.
Yeah, that's what I like about it.
That's the joy of it, where it's like a cliffhanger where at the end of it isn't a fake out where they're like, oh, actually it's okay though. It's like, oh no, we're fucked. We gotta just go. We just gotta keep going. It's a fun change in tone, and then the Doctor and that are running around, and they're like, let's go to the processing room and let's spy on where they're dragging the bodies, because maybe everybody's not dead, actually. Maybe we got lucky. As we then go to the security chief talking with deep voice science man about who they think the Doctor could be, and how, you know, it's impossible that he could be from 1917. He knows too much about technology, you know, how's he snuck in here, etc., etc. And we, of course, hear the words Time Lord spoken by deep voice science man nonchalantly, as he's not even the main focus of the frame. Very interesting.
His back is turned as Time Lord is said for the very first time. It's kind of insane to just drop this little bit of lore 250 episodes into the show without any fanfare to it. It's kind of insane that they did this. And as to who created the term Time Lord, nobody actually knows. Terrence Dicks would always say that Derek Sherwin, the producer, created the term, but Derek Sherwin is like, I have no recollection. I have no idea who created the term. So nobody's taken ownership of the term Time Lord.
I'll do it.
Kind of
I'll
insane.
claim it. I'll claim it. If no one's gonna claim it, I came up with the term Time Lord. You're welcome, guys. If everybody else isn't, I remember coming up with that idea. I'm pretty sure. So you can all thank me. You can all thank me for coming up with it. You're welcome for coming up with the term Time Lord. Yeah, it's so bizarre. It's so strange, and it's like the way that it's said as well. Like when I was watching this, because obviously I haven't seen most of the previous 250 episodes. I didn't even register to me as like, oh, that's the first time they've said Time Lord, because they said it so nonchalantly. I was like, oh, okay, they must have established Time Lords before. Like we must already know what Time Lords are at this point for them to just be like, oh, he's a Time Lord.
You kind of expect him to turn to the camera, Time Lord being the big thing, like
or at
talking
least
to
like
the audience, basically.
the camera looks at him like at least like if we were looking at him as he spoke, and you could do maybe a little push in as he's like Time Lord, where you're like, oh shit, what the fuck is a Time Lord? Instead it's just like, yeah, there's just Time Lords, those guys are around, the guys that are lords of time. That's not a big deal. Like
it's kind of like in The Force Awakens, where we keep on alluding to the fact that Kylo Ren, his dad is Han Solo, and you have that big moment where Snoke is like, we'll have to talk to your father, and it's a big dramatic moment.
So
yes. And that's too on the nose. That's too obvious, because you're already kind of figuring that out as an audience member. But here it's just like, it's just casual information. I kind of like that.
Yeah. It's certainly a unique way of doing it. I can't imagine them doing it like that anymore. Like if they were to come up with like this huge new change to Doctor Who lore, if they would just nonchalantly like I imagine like during the reveal of the Timeless Child and stuff, like you remember the like weird like worm aliens that say it to begin with in like season 1 of Jodie's era. Imagine like the way that they said it, like because they say it like really ominously at the end of the episode where they're like, oh, the Timeless Child, blah blah, foreshadowing, blah. Like it was just like something you heard, like they weren't even on frame, and they were just like, oh yeah, the Timeless Child's a thing, that's pretty cool. Anyway, bye. Like you'd be like, what the fuck is that? Like,
or just recently in the Church of Ruby Road. I got that name correct.
The church on Ruby Road. The church on Ruby Road.
Ruby Road. Same thing. But at the end of the episode,
on and off are the same thing.
But at the end of the episode where Brian May's wife just turns to the camera, like that's a big dramatic reveal compared to this.
Yeah, God, I forgot that she does that. Jesus, yeah.
Doctor Who is a weird show. Have you ever considered that?
No, I've never once thought that. But the Doctor and Zoe and that find their way into the costumes department, which just so happens to be next to the set where they're next filming the next scene with like Jamie and that being knocked out, so the Doctor and Zoe and that can peer through the wall. Nobody notices that there just suddenly becomes a giant fucking like gap in the wall that they're just peering through.
Yeah, the Doctor spends like 2 minutes trying to take away this panel, and he has to be reminded to use the sonic screwdriver. Zoe has to remind him to use it, which is kind of wild, but the sonic screwdriver is so new and it's so underused, but the Doctor needs to be reminded about it. It's kind of funny. Yeah.
But I mean, like, to be fair, like, back then, you come up with this idea of a sonic screwdriver, and it's like a silly, stupid, like, sci-fi idea, which is literally used as a screwdriver in the episode.
Yeah.
Like, they take it very literally as the term sonic screwdriver, and, it hasn't quite turned into the magic wand that it turns into with the Doctor, where it's just like, this is Expelliarmus sort of shit,
But yeah, Zoe reminding him of using the sonic screwdriver as like a last minute addition because Zoe has nothing else to do in this episode, so it gives her something to do. You know?
Yeah. Which is a shame because she was so good in like episodes 1 and 2, where she was like full of attitude and taking the lead and, you know, doing stuff. Where she's kind of fallen to the background a bit in these later episodes.
I would say most of the characters have fallen to the background, including like the Doctor himself. Like,
yeah, it's very focused on the war chief.
Yes, like this is a war chief and security chief episode. You know, like this is just they are the main character essentially. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. We then get to watch some pretty horrific surgery where the doctor and that are peering through and they're looking at this guard who's getting his brain scanned or something, and we see them scan his brain and we see his actual brain in his head. Like, I don't know how they managed to do this and got away with it in 1969, you know? Like, that's a really realistic looking human brain inside this guy's head. That's crazy. That's crazy stuff.
The joke is, of course, here it's just a flat 2D image of like a brain, and it doesn't look too bad for the time, but you know it is laughable now.
It's a fun like psychedelic art style. Like if you took just that drawing off the brain and like blew it up onto like a black poster and made it like a glow in the dark green, I think it'd be funky as fuck. You know, it's a very funky looking brain. It's just a very basic and very silly effect of looking at his head. I dig the vibe though. I do dig the vibe.
Then we get Jamie onto the security table, and we get a really good shot that it's like a side view of Jamie, and then we zoom out of the camera to reveal we're looking through the gap of the thing, which is a cool shot.
Again, there's some really good zooms. There's good zooms in and good zooms out. Zoom in and zoom out. It was very good. There's a lot of dynamic camera action, and you don't really see like zooms anymore in movies and TV. Like, you get them every now and then. There's a really great one in Django Unchained. It fucking like just whips right into Leonardo DiCaprio's face. But zooms, they need to be used more often. It's one of the things I actually liked about what's that Netflix movie about the end of the world that nobody liked but me?
Don't Look Up?
No, the one produced by fucking the Obamas.
It's the one with I can't remember her name. It's Eric Roberts' sister.
Yeah.
Why do I remember Julia Roberts? Why do I remember Eric Roberts?
It's also got Kevin Bacon in it. Nice. And a lot of people didn't like it. I thought it was fine, too enjoyable. I enjoy my time with it. But one of the early scenes in that movie is just a zoom in on this lady as she's monologuing, and I was like, this is so fucking wild. I never see shots like this anymore, and I really fucking liked it. More zooms, more weird zooms. It adds such an interesting look to a shot. You know?
Maybe it's just because most films are shot in digital and you can't quite create the same kind of effect, the same kind of whip zoom. You know, I'm not sure. I have no idea.
Yeah,
but I do want some more whip zooms.
Yeah, more zooms. We need more zooms. But they scan Jamie's brain, and it's is Jamie an android? Is he a robot? Is that what they're trying? Because he's got like just a square brain. It's just made of squares and rectangles.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what this is meant to convey. I presume it's just but his brain is blocked. We can't get through. Maybe.
I have a theory. Ooh. So the last guy we saw, his brain is like this like psychedelic, like sort of like swirly to show like the curve. Like maybe that's because his brain is scrambled. So we see like, you know, it's like all scrambly, and this guy and Jamie's not been scrambled, so it's all straight and rigid. You know, like his brain hasn't been like washed and scrub-a-dub-dubbed, so it's regular looking. Maybe that's what they were going for, but it does look really dumb. It is very confusingly conveyed.
Maybe that's a good theory.
But they take Jamie away, and the doctor's like, well, at least we've discovered one thing. Jamie isn't dead. so we can all sigh some relief, because I thought he was dead. I thought he was absolutely dead. And then the war chief comes into the science guy and yells a lot. He's a very angry man, this war chief.
Yeah, he goes between kind of like talking at a normal volume, but whenever he yells, you can hear the room echo, and I kind of like that.
It's a big yell.
Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah, he's proper shouting. But yeah, he's like, fucking, why are you not like deprogramming these guys? Why was I not informed about anything that's going on? He's basically caught this scientist guy with his pants down, because science guy was working with the security chief to kind of undermine the war chief, and he's like, oh, okay, you're right, I guess I'll fold and I'll do your bidding. And this is just more Chad behavior by the war chief, who is he's on top of things. He's a cool leader and he knows what's going on.
He does. Everybody else, like the scientists.
Everyone's so shit at their job, and he's struggling to keep the ship afloat. He is doing so much stuff. He's like, why is everyone shit?
Yeah, and meanwhile, this fucking this other guy is just in the Civil War. He's just in the bar.
Yeah, he's just stabbed
held
there.
at gunpoint. And this has been like this has been like 40 minutes of screen time at this point of him just in this bar and being held at gunpoint. It's insane.
Yeah.
Because he's been there
really
since the end of episode 4.
And he's not really said anything.
No.
He's not said any. He's just sat in silence and been like, well, I guess you got me. I'm here now. And, before that happens, the doctor and that, they knock out a guard and confront the science guy as well. They knock out the guard just by like smothering him to death, I guess. The guy's got, and they find the science guy. And he's like, oh shit, it's fine. It's just the transition into the much more interesting scene in the barn.
There's no sound of the guard being like, or anything like that.
Oh yeah, he just goes down. He's just like, fuck, I'm dead. That's it.
I do wonder. I kind of wonder these things sometimes. Would you have to pay him more to make him go? Like, does that count as a line of dialogue?
It might. Honestly, it might. I don't know what the union rules were like at the time, but it might count as a line of dialogue, in which case you would have to pay him more. So telling him to just be like, don't make a noise would save money,
Or if he could have just overdubbed him, But I guess that would be that might have been hard for 1969 when it's shot like a live stage play. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's shot like the week before it airs.
Crazy times.
It's insane. The scene with the guy lying down low with the young guy pointing the gun at him. You said this guy is Patrick Troughton's son.
Yes. This is David Troughton. He previously played a non-speaking walk-on role in Enemy of the World, and he later comes back in Midnight. He also played the Second Doctor a few times. And on the commentary, Fraser Hines basically says David named his son Jamie after Fraser Hines, which is kind of sweet.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. He does an okay job. He plays a young, naive dude who's left in charge of guarding this guy, and he fucks it up royally. I wish it wasn't as long, because these are two characters I don't care about, and we spent a long time watching him walk over to pick up some water and then walk back again. But
yeah, we spent
you got to pad out that runtime.
We spent too long in this bar, and it's ridiculous. He's been here since episode 4. The end of episode 4, just under gunpoint. Like, there's nothing going on with this character.
Yeah, and we then go to the sorry, my brain is apparently just refusing to be able to talk right now. We then go to the next scene where Jamie is being his brain washed or like scanned or whatever. The same thing that was happening to Zoe in the last episode is now happening to Jamie, and they're getting basically the same results until the war chief comes in, and then we have another argument between the war chief and the security chief. And I think this argument kind of is the exact same as last episode,
yeah.
where he's like, well, go to the warlord. If you think I'm so shit, then why don't you? And he's like, well, maybe I will do that. And he's like, well, yeah, but if you do that, I'm gonna I'll beat you up. And it's basically the exact same argument they had before.
Yes.
They're just these two guys don't get along.
Yeah,
you know?
it's basically just a big recap of their problem, their beef. But it does end with a great threat, where he's like, be absolutely sure you're accurate in your accusations here, or I will crush you.
I will fuck your shit up. The Doctor and that then rescue everybody except for Jamie, because he's in another room. And so they rescue like all the soldiers and stuff like that. And the Doctor, for whatever reason, really wants to keep the brainwash machine. To the bit where he like almost gets everybody caught and killed. We're trying to steal that machine. What a rude guy the Doctor is. So selfish. Some things never change.
But we basically get the same kind of information over and over again. Zoe has all the memories of every time zone, and we're gonna go get everyone together, and that's basically the point of this scene now. It's just exposition, isn't it?
Yeah, and they decide that they need to like get in a disguise so that they can then continue, and sneak in around the base and things like that. And that's where we then fade to black. That's the ad break. It's BBC. You don't really get adverts,
but it is designed partially because of overseas ad breaks, and also just to give a break in the recording, because they've been recording this for like 12 minutes now. We need a break.
I can't imagine watching Doctor Who and there being adverts. It's so bizarre. That's so bizarre.
Oh, I mean, the horror channel used to air classic Doctor Who, but because, ad breaks are so long now, every episode has to be in a 35-minute slot. Like, that's a 10-minute advert break.
Jesus Christ. We used to be so patient with adverts, like, oh, this is a 20-minute show, but it's on for 30 minutes and there's 10 minutes of adverts. I guess that's okay. And you get to like online media and you're like, I'm watching a 3-hour video and they want 30 seconds of ads. Fuck off.
Oh yeah, I can't be arsed with advert breaks these days.
I got YouTube Premium. I got a 3-month free trial for it, and I'm never going back. My trial runs out, I think, at the end of April, so I'm still enjoying like not paying for it and things like that.
Yeah.
But goddamn, it's just clicking on a video and it playing is so nice.
On my TV, you can just press up a few times and there's an advert break, and you can quickly press the buttons, and it'll basically be like, you don't want to see this advert anymore, and you just press a button a few times and you can skip the entire advert break, even though it says it's unskippable. You can immediately skip the advert break, which is what I do all the time now, because I can't be arsed sitting through it.
I recommend YouTube Premium. I think it's too expensive if you don't use YouTube Music, which I don't, because I use Spotify, and I'm humming and hawing about being like, maybe if I cancel my Spotify and use YouTube Music, that'll be okay. But my Spotify I've used for like over 10 years.
Same.
It's like the algorithm knows me so well, rather than having to build a new one. So I'm humming and hawing on that. If YouTube offered a slightly cheaper option of just no ads and no YouTube Music, I would jump on that shit like nobody's business, like £6 a month, instead of £11 fucking pound, and you just get no ads. I'd happily do that, YouTube, if you're listening.
Back in the day, I did go with YouTube Premium. It was called YouTube Red back in the day.
Yeah, RedTube. Yeah, it was... I wonder why they changed that.
Like, nobody realized in the marketing room. Like, that's insane. But
or somebody realized, but they didn't want to be the one to say it.
But obviously, this was... I only took it when it was, when YouTube actually made, like, TV shows back when they had Cobra Kai. That's the only reason why I got YouTube Red back in the day, for Cobra Kai, but now it's on Netflix, so...
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah, I think that was a mistake on YouTube's part, and I get why they'd no longer do it, because like YouTube trying to turn themselves into TV kind of undermines the point of YouTube. Like, YouTube is, creator focused and about regular people doing things, or Mr. Beast, and you're like just so irregular that's what makes it interesting. Whereas like it's like a counterculture to traditional TV, so trying to turn yourself into traditional TV seems like a backwards move, and I totally understand why it failed miserably.
Speaking of Mr. Beast, like Mr. Beast just took an Amazon Prime deal to create an Amazon show, which is like, you're already doing so much on YouTube that is TV budgeted, you know what I mean? Like, he does YouTube videos where he has tanks and shit. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and he said said in an interview recently that he was like trying to prove that like people on YouTube can be legitimate and work in and it's this idea still that online content is somehow lesser than traditional media and traditional TV, and it's this weird, it's still gatekeeping. That's what it is. It's like, you could be on YouTube, but you're not really talented or famous unless you're on TV or movies. They're above the internet, it's this weird fucking hierarchy. Like, fucking just fuck off, okay? Like, just make shit, who cares? Like,
the whole industry is just so bizarre, but we're not here to talk about the industry, really. We're here to talk about a 55-year-old episode of a sci-fi show nobody cares about.
So the episode continues on with Patrick Troughton's son holding the Monocle Man at gunpoint, and Monocle Man is like, can you let me reach into my pocket or reach into my pocket and give me my monocle, please? And for whatever reason, he's like, yeah, no problem. That sounds like an absolutely reasonable thing to do for this prisoner that I'm holding at gunpoint. You've got to be able to see the gun I'm pointing at you, right? That wouldn't be fair otherwise. So yes, of course, I'll reach in and give you your monocle. And of course, this leads to him being hypnotized by Monocle Man, and it's very dumb, and I don't like anything to do with that in this episode,
Yeah, this poor guy must have been so happy to do Doctor Who, and then he finds out, the last 3 episodes, I'm just locked up in this barn. Okay. I guess I'll make the best out of this situation.
Yeah. And the next scene we get is another glorious scene of the war chief being a Chad and the security chief being a beta bitch. What's the term for people that aren't super cool alpha males like the war chief? He's clearly the Sigma Alpha. Yeah. Is that a thing?
Beta sounds right.
And because the security chief is like, well, they must have escaped using a time machine. They have access to a time machine, and that's how they got in and out of this building. And the war chief's like, no, they came through that wall. You're so shit at your job. You're so unbelievably shit. And it's great. I'm all here for it. I really like the war chief. I like how cool he is. I like his weird facial hair. It's fun. He feels very like the master before the master, almost,
And also, are any of the dead bodies still there outside the room? Any of the dead security guards?
Don't worry about things like that. Don't worry about things like that.
Like, the only reason the security guards are outside of this room now because they believe the Doctor and company are inside the room, but you can clearly look in the room to realize we're not in the room. I mean, you can be like, they escaped. Immediately, you can tell when they escaped, but okay. Weird shit.
And we then get to scene where Are You My Mummy? The Doctor goes into the empty child as he's wearing a gas mask for no reason other than to fuck with Jamie. Is that like Jamie like wakes up and he's like, holy shit, and then the Doctor's like, lol, it's just me.
I mean, I guess it does help establish that they did pick up gas masks, because that is important later.
Yeah, but it's such a weird way of doing it. It's such a weird way of doing it.
And speaking of a weird way of doing things, you want to talk about this fight scene here? Oh my god.
Yeah, so we get a pretty amazing fight scene as everyone's trying to escape, but some guards come in, and they're like, oh shit, we have to fight off these guards, and they like struggle, and they kind of fall over each other for a bit, and at one point one of the guards really cartoonishly goes like ah, and starts running up the ramp and gets like punched in the gut or something, and he falls and he hits off some chairs. That is very dynamic. It's like you know, this is. It feels like they went over like, okay, you do this, and oh, what if I went up the ramp and then you knock me? That would be kind of fun. And they just kind of went over in their heads. They never practiced it, and then they went, okay, shoot, and yeah, you get something like this.
Yeah, this whole scene happens because the Doctor puts up a force field, but some of the guards get through. This fight was a last-minute addition because in the original script, no one got through, and they were like, yeah, we need some of our great action scenes here, you know.
Yeah, some sort of tension. And the force field also doesn't make any sense because they like keep the force field up, and they're like, okay, right, we've got to get ready to go and drop this force field. Okay, be ready. And they drop the force field, and the guards run in, and they're like, oh, I guess no one's here because the Doctor and they just fuck off. I like it's so bizarre, like, because we can see them through the force field, so surely they can see through the other way, unless it's like a fucking like one-way mirror for some reason. They just give up. They just immediately give up, and the Doctor's hiding. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, the Doctor is hiding behind the control panel again, and it's like it's so easy to spot you there, and these security guards are just shit. Like,
yeah.
And you know,
it's
whenever you're dealing with security guards and shit in Doctor Who, they're always shit. But you know, this is a 10-episode event basically. This is 2.5 months of just watching these security guards do their job really badly.
How is this show ever popular? I don't understand. And we then go back to Patrick Troughton's son, who gets confronted by one of his fellow soldiers, and we get some okay choreography actually for once, where they end up having a fight, and Patrick Troughton's son is, you know, he does his own stunts apparently, because he throws some pretty good looking fists. He gets thrown to the ground a couple times, like, you know, he's like, you know, pretty full physical acting performance, and like, he definitely the best fight in the episode. Best fight in all of the episodes.
Yeah, because there is a couple of punches to the face that looks like a couple of punches to the face.
They look really good. They look really good.
Solid.
Yeah.
Like, he is really good here. Good job. Patrick must have been proud.
And he gets eventually like thrown off to the side, and Monocle Man is like, I'm going to shoot you, or you can come with me, other soldier man. And the guy's like, you'll have to shoot me. And he's like, okay, I will shoot you in exactly 3 seconds when I finish this conversation. Oh no, I've been shot. As he gets killed by Patrick Troughton's son, who I guess getting hit in the head made him like lose his hypnosis or whatever, and he shoots the monocle guy, which means the conclusion to his story is he gets captured, sits around for a bit, and then dies. It's very worthwhile. It's a very worthwhile story.
He's just been sitting around in this barn for 2.5 episodes, and basically when this does get cut down for the colorized version, there's probably going to be like 2 scenes of him. It's really sad.
Yeah, I can't imagine he's going to be a heavily featured character. We get a little bit of the Doctor and that running around as the Doctor's very determined to steal this brainwashing machine that the science guy was using, and eventually he does, before we go back to the war chief and the security chief doing what they do best, and bickering. Yes. Bickering. There's so much bickering between the two of them. But they're arguing.
Yeah, they do leave some important information that the Warlord is coming. He is coming very soon. He is in the next episode, so that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, I can't wait to find out exactly what this war chief is. You know, I know, or war chief, warlord. Fuck me, all the names are so different. It's so hard to keep track of everybody. When the science guy with the deep voice sneaks into the room in a really funny bit of blocking,
Yes.
where like he sneaks up besides the doctor and that, like leaning against the wall, but we can see him just like through the transparent part of the wall. It's very cartoonish, but it's a fun shot. It's another fun bit of fun shottiness, you know.
Fun shottiness.
And
yeah, I think this is his last scene, which is quite sad because I like his voice. His voice is really good.
It is a very good voice. The doctor and that managed to continue on. They like wear their gas masks to open up the door and like try to sneak away and things like that. Before getting cut off by the war chief coming in, being like, "Stop what you're doing! I'll get them out of this room." You know, like I'll be able to fucking sort out the doctor and shit like that. While the doctor is like, "I'll fuck with them from this side," and we get the two of them moving this machinery about like the wizards that they are, and the war chief eventually is like, "I'm just gonna make the room crush them to death.
Yes.
It's that easy. Why is everybody so shit at their jobs? I will do it myself."
Yeah, because there's a point where Jamie's like, "Can't they just come in, Doctor?" And the Doctor's like, "Oh, this is just like the TARDIS. We can't get in. It's just like the TARDIS." You know, that's what you know. It is a TARDIS. I think we all realize by now it is a TARDIS.
I wonder what they could possibly be hinting at.
But yeah, them making the dimensions smaller on the inside is fun. You know, that's That's something they did at the end of The Time Meddler, also another story where you first met a Time Lord, so it's fun. You know, at the very end of that story. So yeah, decent cliffhanger. It's very Star Warsy.
It is very Star Warsy. It's a fun cliffhanger. I like how cheesy it is with the war chief being like, "You'll die in 30 seconds, 30 seconds," and then we cut to the credits. It's very, it's very 60s. It's great. And
but you know, if you're a kid and you just read the newspaper and you find out that John Pertwee is the next Doctor, you'd be like, "Yeah, I think this is when the Doctor dies.
Shit.
I think the next episode is John Pertwee." Like, that's fun.
It's pretty cool, and that.
And you know, speaking of Star Wars, we will come to a scene that's very reminiscent of a Star Wars scene in our April Fool's episode, which is coming out in a few weeks. We're not going to reveal it quite yet, but we will be back to the War Games in 3 weeks' time, so it's a little bit of a gap. Next week we are doing the news. I mean, it's our April Fool's episode.
There's a lot of news suddenly.
Yes.
we've got a lot to talk about. There's been some maneuverings within the Doctor Who landscape that are pretty fucking big, and we very much need to talk about. So I'm looking forward to that episode, because it's been months where we've had no news, and now suddenly we have all the news. And
yeah, it's gonna be a big episode next week, but I'm looking forward to that.
yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. Then the week after that, as you said, is April Fool's thing. We do it every year, where for April Fool's week we do something slightly different and slightly bizarre. Previous years we've done K9 and Company, wasn't it? That was an episode.
No, we did K9. We did just K9, the Australian.
Was it just
K9
the K9 show?
Yeah.
And what was the other April Fool's week?
We did Class.
Yes, of course.
But
okay. God, that was a year ago.
Yeah,
that was a year ago. Fucking hell.
This year is our first ever like proper Doctor Who rip-off. We're doing that, so it's a little bit of a hint.
So look forward to that. We will be back with War Games in a few weeks' time. Until then, you can subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/@WhoWatchesWhoPod, where you can see this podcast in video form and watch us there. We're also available in audio form on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music. Anywhere that you get podcasts, you will be able to find our podcast. We're on Facebook at Who Watches Who, on Twitter /X at Watches Doctor. You can buy my book, Can You Taste the Color Orange? Available everywhere you get books, places like Amazon, Waterstones, your local indie bookshop. Just ask to get it or buy it online.
I saw it on W.H. Smith as well. William Hartnell Smith.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah, that's cool. Can You Taste the Color Orange? It is out next week, March the 28th. So please pre-order that shit. Get me climbing them rankings. Let's buy my book. It's pretty fun. And Also, you could subscribe to my gaming channel, Psychedelic Gaming Hobos, where me and my friend Sean just kind of have a silly time and play games, and it's a pretty good time. We're quickly climbing up the subscription ranks, and that we might take over the podcast soon, and that would be interesting.
No way, man.
Yeah, we're getting close. But until then, we will see you next week when we discuss all the news that has been happening. Thank you very much for listening, and until then, bye.